Studios have become more and more tempted to rely on computerized effects to tell their stories as special effects are getting more accessible and CGI sets are cheaper than real locations. Movies now rely so heavily on digital effects that behind-the-scenes footage usually doesn't resemble what we've seen on screen. In this video, you'll see what iconic movies look like behind the scenes. First up, we all know the Avengers Endgame did rounds, but would it without the CGI? Now we're all well aware that the MCU is highly reliant on VFX and CGI, but one of the most iconic movies of the MCU, Avengers Endgame, was an absolute masterpiece in terms of visual effects. Ever thought about how the Great War came to the screen? Well, a big fat thanks to the green screens, cause let's get this straight, no matter how much money you got, it's kinda hard to hire big purple aliens and a man who shoots webs. For the most part, the team had to render hundreds of special abilities and costumes for hundreds of superheroes, but it didn't stop there. It was all of that with an apocalyptic war ground in the background. What we see on screen is quite different because in real life, we see two groups of people running towards each other with the numbers a little over the audience of a John Travolta Gotti movie. Seriously, the whole battle is pretty unimpressive with all those green screen and superheroes, without their superpowers, look like mimes in fancy leotards. Also, Uncharted wouldn't have been so successful without those blue screens. We didn't expect the directors to ask Tom Holland to jump from a cargo plane midair for a mere scene, but we also didn't know how they were able to finesse a scene so well. Tom Holland starred in a video game remake called Uncharted, and its opening scene shows us a very thrilling, high-octane fall from a cargo plane. Let's take a look at it. Although you might have assumed that Spider-Man would be capable of performing aerial stunts on his own, that isn't the case. A large number of wires and hydraulic arms were used with a very blue set, which was later made to look just perfect with a lot of CGI and imagination. The producers were able to pull off a lot of death-defying scenes. Turns out we don't even need real cars anymore. Next up, John Wick isn't quite the assassin we see him as. This one scene from John Wick 3 couldn't have looked more real, but we guess you caught it up by now. It wasn't a real street either. Instead, it was a bunch of fake motorbikes, green carts, and a lot of dudes morphed in green suits helping John take down the enemy. We also see a man blowing air at Keanu's hair, so it looks like he's riding the bike. Honestly, hats off to these teams and their efforts. Swinging over to Spider-Man, one of the main things that numerous iterations of Spidey have are awesome visuals and CGI, and for the most part, Sam Raimi's trilogy holds up in terms of effects. That hasn't changed, but with the upcoming technology and special effects training, both Spider-Man Homecoming and Far From Home have incredible visual elements. An example of this is the Washington Monument scene in Homecoming. The tech wizards at Marvel recreated the monument using a combination of green screen and recreation, and Tom, who's a skilled acrobat himself, brought it to life, scaling walls and leaping off the peak of the building with the help of wires. Of course, the result is terrific, and we get to see a whole lot of Spidey action. Although we're not sure whether Peter Parker was as thrilled as we were. Moving forward, how can we forget Avatar while talking about CGI? Avatar is a movie where the whole thing is an example of amazing effects, with the world of Pandora and the Na'vi being brought to life by the power of VFX. It's been made even more sensational by the shots of behind the scenes where there is so much green you'd think it's a bowl of guacamole. One of the most impressive scenes is the first flight scene where Sully rides a mountain banshee for the first time soaring through the air. However, the scene didn't look quite that incredible in real life, with actors attached to ropes and thrown against walls. Yeah, not quite as glamorous as mountain banshees, but the result is impressive, and the visuals are still amazing despite being over 13 years old by now. Sadly, we couldn't teach Jason Momoa to breathe underwater. Rather than trying to teach Jason Momoa how to breathe underwater, the Aquaman team used several incredible effects visually to bring the DC superhero comic book to life. Lighting, wires, and motion captures were all employed to take this above-ground set straight to Atlantis. Also, how can we forget The Matrix? The Matrix is arguably one of the first movies most known for its extent of CGI, with people to this day referencing, parodying, or even imitating the iconic slow-motion bullet dodging. How this scene was captured, however, is even more fascinating than the scene itself. There was a series of cameras taking multiple pictures in front of, yep, you guessed it, right, our best friend, Mr. Green Screen. The cameras are all in different positions, so when running together, it looks like the actors moving in slow motion. Practical effects are also used throughout the movie, as well as the use of deteriorating sets and strings to create action. The effects were combined with Neo and Smith fly towards each other with the actors attached to cables while the ring of cameras takes a series of photos, producing a very smooth scene that we are all accustomed to watching. Now we have Superman, Man of Steel. Superman's Man of Steel makes every kid want to fly, but the secret to this superhero's flying ability all starts and ends with wires, pulleys, and a bunch of people pulling them. He's not actually faster than a speeding bullet, it's just the sped up scenes that make it look that way. The tape powers might just be fake, but the Man of Steel's abs of steel are absolutely real. Moving on to Jurassic World, yep, no one brought them back to life. You probably aren't shocked to find out that the dinosaurs in Jurassic World aren't real. They're almost completely CGI. Wait, almost? Yeah, cause, well, it's actors or crew members with props and costumes just helping out the tech gurus on the team and making their work a tad bit easier. We hate to ruin the secret behind the Velociraptors, gotta give it to Chris Pratt. He's good at pretending that people in gray leotards are some ferocious predators. What about the T-Rex though? Nope, completely computer generated, no man in a leotard or nothing. Now let's talk about World War Z and the epic plane scene. In World War Z, Brad Pitt threw a live grenade in the middle of a plane to save himself from a bunch of frenzied zombies. To create this absolute piece of art, rather than sacrifice 100 extras at 30,000 feet, producers used a fake plane, wind cannons, and a giant green screen set to make the scene as realistic as they could. Next, let's mention a Disney movie. In the live-action reboot of the Disney movie Aladdin, it was always going to be a challenge to bring all those magical moments to life, not with a green screen though. From flying the magic carpet to running through the Caves of Wonders, producers used blue screens and hidden supports. There were also specifically designed motion capture suits for Will Smith's genie. Next up, Alice in the CGI Land. If you want us to explain the plot of Alice in Wonderland, we'd probably say it's 2 parts of a fever dream mixed with 3 parts of whatever that caterpillar was on. But the movie is a great example of green screen in use. The movie's special effects team used CGI, visual effects, and stilts to create characters of all sizes and perspectives. Let's not forget such an amazing runner. The logistics of building a massive wall is way beyond film companies, and let's face it, it's even beyond most presidents. That's the reason why producers working on the Maze Runner used incredibly realistic CGI to render these massive maze walls. There are only small constructions used for reference. The rest is a complete fabrication. But imagine, without the CGI, how easily they could have just jumped over the walls and the movie would have ended in 30 minutes max. Life would have been easy for them, but oh well. Moving on, Beauty and the Beast, but is he really the Beast? In Disney's Beauty and the Beast remake, the fearsome prince turned monster is an intimidating creature, but guess what? No, that's not a real beast Disney found roaming around the jungles to cast. In reality, it's just a guy in a motion capture suit. Now, I'm not sure if it's padding he has on, or those are real beastly quads, the result of some uninterrupted leg days. Finally, next up is The Hobbit. The Lord of the Rings sequel was no joke. The Shire, Mordor, and all of those worlds, hobbits themselves were all a work of CGI. But the most epic one was the river rapid scene in The Hobbit, which had so much going on all at once. The raging river, orcs firing arrows and swinging swords while making sure all the dwarves stay in their barrels, swapping out weapons for green pool noodles and some well-timed splashes of water. You've got yourself an authentic indoor river rapid adventure. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think we missed a movie? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.